Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Crack That Turning Problems into Solutions. This is me Priyasha Das, and today in this video we'll be talking about the primary and the secondary screening methods for getting accurate answers in the statement and argument type questions. But before that, let me tell you about the Unacademy's new target batch for the MAHCET examination. So if you're planning to give the CET examination this year, then you can surely check out the link in the description box for enrolling into this top target batch for MAHCET. This batch will be conducted by four very well-known tutors of Unacademy, and this will be actually in line with your paper pattern of CET, specially made batch for CET. And this CET examination is a bit different from the other examination as it has no negative marking and is a moderate difficulty level examination, which will take you to the top MBA colleges like JBIMS, Simsri, Pumba, etc. So don't forget to check the link in the description box to enroll yourself for this batch if you are planning to give the CET examination, and use my code Priyasha10 to get an additional discount of 10% in your subscription. And if you're planning to go for the CAT 2022, then Unacademy is starting its new batches on 9th of March named Vision Batch and the Road to Success Batch. Now these batches will be conducted by different tutors, so do check out the link in the description box to get the details of these batches and enroll according to your choice. And of course, for enrolling into these courses, you would either need the Plus subscription or the Iconic subscription. So while subscribing, don't forget to use my code Priyasha10 to get an additional instant discount of 10% with many other special features unlocked on the Unacademy platform. And yes, the Plus subscription will give you the opportunity to raise hand, ask doubts live in the class, and also connect with the tutor directly on call during the class. And if you want all this to happen one-on-one and at your time convenience, booking slots according to your choice, then you can surely check out the Iconic subscription as well. The links are there in the description box. Now, let's get our video started. Hello everyone. So today in this video, we will be focusing on the process of primary and secondary screening, how to utilize this to get to know which argument is strong and which argument is weak. But before that, I'll be discussing the practice set 5 answers. So if you have checked out the PDF from the previous verbal session on which we discussed the statement and the arguments, then here are the questions and here are the answers. So we have to basically find out that which arguments are strong, which are not. Okay, so statement number 1 says, should agriculture in rural India be mechanized? Okay, so always keep the question first in your mind and then try to figure out whether the answer is rational, logical enough and is completely related to the question or not. Like the first one is saying yes, that we should actually mechanize the agriculture in India. Why? Because it would lead to higher production, which is absolutely valid. It's absolutely strong. Okay, that if we mechanize it, then the benefit would be higher production. But at the same time, if I come up with an argument that no, we should not mechanize it, then the reason given for no, is it valid? Is it strong enough? Let's check that. Many villagers would be left unemployed, and that is again a very valid condition, a strong condition, a strong argument for the reason why we should not completely mechanize the agriculture. And therefore we can say that both statement or argument number 1 and 2 are valid, and when both are valid, we go for option 5, which is both are strong. Similarly, statement number 2, should girls learn the arts like judo and karate? The yes gives the reason that it will enable them to defend themselves from rogues and ruffians, which is very much valid. So this is a strong argument. But if no, then why no? The reason for no is they will lose their feminine grace. Now, to be honest, there is no relation between feminine grace and learning judo and karate. So that is a weak argument. So we spotted a weak argument here, and that means only argument number 1 is strong. And according to the options given to us, if only one is strong, we will go with number 1. So here the answer will be number 1. Now, statement number 3, should the political parties be banned? Now, argument number 1 says yes, because it's necessary to teach the lesson to the politicians. So, do you think that teaching them a lesson will require banning of the entire political party, because then the candidates have an opportunity to independently contest for the elections as well, isn't it? So, these are some conditions which we don't bring okay, which we don't put light upon, which we don't bring to our mind, and that eventually leads us to think that it might be a strong argument. But to be honest, it's not, because just banning the political parties does not actually stops everyone from, committing the corruption. Okay, so that's why this is a weak argument. And the reason for saying no is it will lead to the end of democracy. So again, it will not lead to the end of democracy because the pop candidates can independently contest for the election. So this is not leading to the end of democracy. So when both the arguments are not correct, we will go for option, most probably, let me check, it's option 4. So none of them are strong enough. Now moving down quickly to my next question, which is statement number 4. Should the educated unemployed youth be paid the unemployment allowance by the government? Now, if yes, then why? Because that will be some monetary help to them, okay, so that they can start searching for employment and kickstart some self-employment venture, which is very much strong, very much valid. The reason is that there are a couple of people who suffer because of this. So yes, this is correct, and this is not correct. If you're saying that this is not, should not be given, then what's your valid reason for that? It will dampen their urge to do something to earn their livelihood and thus promote idleness among the अनएम्प्लॉयड यूथ. दिस इज अगेन वेरी मच ट्रू दैट अगर हम सब लोगों को ये अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट अलाउंस देने लगे तो शायद कोई भी फिर काम नहीं करेगा, करेक्ट. बट अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट देने की, अलाउंस देने की जरूरत है उन डिजर्विंग कैंडिडेट्स को जो किसी ना किसी एक रीजन की वजह से, मे बी लेस नंबर ऑफ सीट्स कह सकते हो, या फिर किसी अदर रीजन की वजह से नहीं एम्प्लॉय हो पा रहे, तो नेक्स्ट ईयर वो फिर ट्राई कर पाए, उसके लिए उन्हें मॉनेटरी हेल्प की जरूरत है, एंड दैट इज बीन सपोर्टेड बाय आर्गुमेंट नंबर 1. So here we need to understand that in both the cases the argument is strong, so we will go with option 5, which is both being strong. Now, the last question was, statement is, should foreign films be banned in India? If yes, then the reason they are saying is they depict an alien culture which adversely affects our values. Now, just have a note that this is not correct, because the reason stated here is not at all going to affect our values. It is only a part of learning, that we are learning some alien culture. So this is a weak argument. And if no, that if it should not be banned in India, why it should not be banned in India? Because foreign films are of high artistic standard. Do you consider that all the foreign films are so? No. So you cannot completely generalize something and say that we should continue doing that. So this is not strong enough to contradict the reason that it should not be banned in India. So this is again a weak one, and this will lead to statement number 4, that none of the arguments are strong. Alright, so this was all about the homework for the last session, guys. A little bit of warm up for this session as well. Now in this session, we are going to get down to the process of primary screening. So if you guys have not checked out the first part of this video, then I suggest you to go and do that, because that will give you a quick idea about what we were doing and what is primary screening. So in the previous session, we actually considered few tips how to get down to the arguments, like recognize them as to be strong arguments or weak arguments easily. But when it comes to this, that is primary screening and secondary screening, this is for the very confusing statements. Confusing statements means where you are not able to directly understand just by looking at the argument that it is a valid strong argument or a weak argument. So starting with the primary screening. Primary screening is just like the first check, guys. You have to put a first check and see whether the 4 things are working in your domain or not. If it is not working, that means any of these 4 things, either an like unclear or ambiguous statement is visible, or a superficial statement is visible, or a boomerang type question or a naive type question is argument is visible to you already, then primary screening is gone. Like in primary screening only you were able to identify the weak arguments, and now no need of doing the secondary screening. But in case all your arguments pass through the primary screening, then you have to put them to the secondary screening. Once you do this, see, I'm not asking you to do it in the exams as well. I'm asking you to learn this process so that only when you get confused in the exam, you can just spend a minute or two on it and make sure that you are 100% accurate in your answer. So let's get started with the first one, which is unclear and ambiguous statements. What are they actually? Ambiguous arguments fall in the category of the weak arguments, and in case of such an argument where it's not clear whether the argument is completely related to my suggested course of action or the statement, then we say that it is ambiguous, and then we consider it to be weak. Like an example of that is religious festivals like Kumbh should be banned because many people die in the stampedes at such festivals. Okay, this is true. Now, what is the argument which is saying yes? The purpose of person's life is to live and not to die. Now, do you consider that this statement has any relation with exactly the stampede experienced in Kumbh? Not really. Okay, so therefore the argument is unclear, ambiguous, and we cannot relate to the main statement, and we consider this to be a weak argument. Similarly, there is another set of arguments which are called as superficial arguments, those which only look at the surface of the problem and fail to make a deep analysis of it. For example, the question is, should we scrape our constitution and bring in its place a new one? Yes, old things are of little use. Now, if you see, is this argument giving us a valid logic or a reason that why should we bring a new constitution? No, it's just reinstating with a different, like just rephrasing and saying that okay, fine, we should not do because old things are of no use. This is a weak argument. It is only upon the surface. जो मैंने statement में बोला वही मैं argument में बोल रही हूँ without even connecting them logically. Similarly, if the next statement you check, should we allow foreign print media to operate from the Indian territory? They are saying no, and the reason they are giving is foreign print media are useless. How are they useless? Who will say this? This should be the argument. If you tell in the argument why are they useless, only then I can connect it with the statement, right? So therefore this is a weak argument. Again, any superficial argument is a weak argument. Now the third type of category is called as a boomerang type. Now boomerang's meaning is it's a stick which you throw on an object and it comes back to you. So same is applied to the questions. Like you are putting forward a question in the statement, like should we make family planning compulsory in India? And in return, in the argument, they are saying yes, why not? So we are not having conversations here, to be very clear on that. Okay, we are not having conversations here that we will say yes, why not? Why not reason should be given, and that will make it a valid strong argument. Just check another example. Should India have presidential type of government? No. Why should we do so? No, tell me the reason why do you think that presidential type of government is bad? Okay, so this is again weak, this is again weak. Now the fourth category which we check in the primary screening is the naive arguments. So what exactly naive arguments means? They are those arguments which are related to the main statement. They are related, mind you, but they are not supported by facts. They are just simple assertions and they lack some logical reasoning. Okay, and owing to this, they are relegated to the status of weak arguments. Just take an example. We should enjoy ourselves to full before saying goodbye to this world. And the argument is saying no, we should not enjoy. Why? Such thinking does not enable us to do anything in this world. Okay. See, they are related. These two statement and arguments are related to each other, where we are talking about enjoying life before dying and not enjoying life because that will not help us do anything in this world. They are related. Of course, they are related. But don't you think that the argument given here is a simple assertion? Okay, a simple assertion of the statement or a plea by a person, a personal, you can say, a personal idea of like a personal idea, isn't it? Yes, it's a personal opinion. It lacks substance or reasoning that why does the person think so. this is lagging behind. So those kind of things are called as naive arguments, which is simple reinstating. जो ऊपर लिखा है वही नीचे लिखा है, just in a rephrased manner. That's called as naive arguments. Okay. So these are the four categories. See, because I was explaining it for the first time, it took time. But when you do questions on this, you will see that you will only take a matter of 30 seconds to quickly check whether any of these are present in a particular argument. Like if there is why not wala thing, you know it's boomerang, so you will make it weak immediately. That if that's not present, boomerang is not checked only. If the same idea has been replicated, then it's naive argument. Okay. And the other two at the top were the superficial arguments which do not connect with the logic, and the other one was unclear, ambiguous, which is not directly related only. So these are the four categories which we call as ASBN in short. A for ambiguous, S for superfluous, B for boomerang एंड एन फॉर नेव. तो अगर ये चारों चीजें आपके पास कहीं भी दिख गई आपको किसी आर्ग्यूमेंट में, सो नो नीड ऑफ गोइंग फॉर द सेकेंडरी स्क्रीनिंग. यू नो दैट यू नीड टू स्टॉप हियर एंड you need to mark that particular argument as a weak argument. Now, if all your arguments pass through the category of primary screening, then you will put it down into the secondary screening. Now, secondary screening is also distinguished between some parts. So, the first part is proper relation. We can check whether the statement and the arguments are having proper relation or not. And if they are not related to each other, then we can reject it as a weak argument. Now, just have a look. Okay, here you will say that, okay, then in that case, the proper relation will be directly related to the unambiguous, unclear and ambiguous type of screening which we did in the primary screening. No, it's a little different. How it's a bit different? The statement and an argument must be properly related to each other. In the argument should deal with the primary issue only. Generally what happens, you bring up a issue in the statement and argument में generally जो support में present होता है वो किसी minor issue के ऊपर they are talking. Okay, like the primary issue is something else, but the argument is not dealing with the primary issue, it's dealing with the minor, insignificant or irrelevant issues. Okay, so that makes it different, and we will see it with the help of an example. Should we ban all the types of protest strikes by the employees everywhere? The argument is saying yes, because it's the only way to teach discipline to the employees. Now, teaching discipline to the employees is a desirable course of action that I totally agree with. But to achieve it, bearing all the legitimate strikes or protests may be a viable option, may not be a viable option, right? Because अगर हम genuine protests and strikes को भी रोक दें, then the genuine demands of the employees for which they might go on a strike will not be addressed, right? So this is not a generalized or a very good approach to take. So what are we doing? In case of achieving too little, we are giving up too much. So that's why, just in order to teach discipline to a couple of people, we cannot put others at risk. Okay, so therefore this is considered to be weak, even though it's completely related to employee. But still, why is it falling short and why is it going in the weak category? Because it is a generalized form. Here we are addressing to everyone together, okay, not just to one strike, but to all strikes. Then, should all people go to the hills? Now, the argument says yes, because hills with their salubrious climate promote longevity. Now, see, again the same thing. Now, everyone will not go to the hills to increase their lifespan, right? When it comes to overall people, everyone, such a course of action is not economically viable for many of us also, and therefore this argument will not put forth a reasonable option to pursue and will be considered as a weak argument only. All right, so we just need to keep this thing in mind, that these are the possibilities. Now, the second screening part is predictability of the results. Okay, what is predictability of results? An argument will be classified as steering, okay, if it talks of the results that can be predicted with a fair degree of reliability based on the facts, universal truths, experiences, and of course common sense. Like here we have a question, should the system of competitive tests continue for the selection of the candidates for the job? It is saying yes, it makes the selection of this really deserving candidates. Now, do you think it's a strong one? Of course, it's a strong one. Why is it a strong one? The reason for it to be strong is because our own common sense will apply that here it's convincing because our experience and our common sense tells us that this is true. Selections would be very much based on the selector's own whims and notions if we will not have such tests. And in that case, the people who would be selected might not be the deserving ones. And therefore, this should continue. So we consider this to be a strong one. Now, the second is the system of joint families is better than the nuclear families. And if someone is saying no, they should give a valid reason why are they saying no. The valid reason is that the nuclear family system offers greater scope of individual freedom, creativity, and progress, which is very much true as far as seen from the experience of others and as far as seen from the people who agree with this logic. Okay, then the third one is India should be concerned about the development taking place in Pakistan, its neighbor. And the argument is saying no, what happens in Pakistan is their headache. Okay, and we should mind our own business. So do you think it is a weak argument or a strong argument? Of course it's a weak argument, and the reason for it to be weak is experience tells us that in today's world, okay, which is highly integrated in character, what happens in one country has repercussions for not only its neighbors but also those which are far away from it. And since Pakistan is our immediate neighbor, anything happening there would be a matter of concern for us because it might affect us directly. So, in this light, this argument will be considered as a weak one because we should be worried about the developments taking place in Pakistan. Now, the third part of the secondary screening is called as the probability seeking. What's probability? Probability refers to the chances of an argument being true. And here we classify the arguments as weak or strong on the basis of their chances of truthfulness. There are certain cases where a solution suggested in the question has not been tried so far, or we might not have experienced it. So, even if we haven't experienced it, still the logic says that the probability or the improbability of this logical connection of the argument with the statement will be all about the answer. That means it's not necessary that always we have only experienced it, but the probability of this being true will be a reason for making the argument strong or weak. Like, have an example. Should the system of internal assessment be abolished in the colleges and universities? Someone is saying yes. And what is the reason they are putting forward? It promotes the favoritism among teachers and leads to the victimization of many students. Do you find this reason to be true enough? Yes, even if you have not experienced this thing, but still you can say that it is logically connected and is true because the probability of this happening, favoritism happening, is very much more. Okay, that's why. Then the next statement is, shall we introduce state financing of the elections in India? If someone is saying yes, then the reason they are giving is to eliminate the role of the money power which many candidates use to win elections. So even if we have not experienced it ourselves, but we have seen over the years that many times it has happened that a candidate wins simply because of the money power. Correct? So that's why to avoid this, we can introduce this thing. Again, this is a probability based stuff where we know that the probability of a person having more money winning the elections is more compared to others, and therefore we can consider this argument to be a strong argument. Now, the last one is pretty interesting because that is called as the desirability. After putting the arguments to the above tests, all the primary screening and the above three secondary screening tests, we finally subject them to the criteria of desirability. An argument suggests a course of action to be taken to achieve certain results. Am I right? But are those results really desirable in terms of the overall societal benefits or harms? This final test will put the argument throughout, okay, and will actually help it to consider whether you should consider it as an overall basis or not. That means, is it benefiting the exact group of people or not? Let's take a statement. Shall we make the learning of music compulsory for all the school statements? Someone is saying yes. Why? It will enhance the job opportunities for the musically trained people. Now, have your attention over here. the argument says is not what really is desirable. Why? Schools are not meant to create more and more job opportunities for the teacher. Their major purpose is to impart learning to the students, right? Further, this argument does not speak of the righteous reasons, okay, for having compulsory music in the schools. So therefore, it fails the desirability test and hence is a weak argument. All right. So we will consider this to be weak. The reason for that is introducing music's reason is not stated. Rather, the reason stated is providing job opportunities for the people, which is not the real work of the schools. Now, the next one, the next statement says, shall we allow foreign print media in India? The argument says no, because this will increase the number of newspapers in India. Now, the reason they are putting forward for avoiding the foreign print in India is vague. The reason for that is vague and therefore weak. Why? It's not desirable. Why? Because by all means, competition in any arena always improves the quality of the work or the product, right? And therefore disallowing foreign newspapers only on the ground that they will add up to the number of newspapers is completely vague and not a good argument, and therefore we will call it to be a weak argument. So what we just took forward from this session today, that we should actually avoid all those arguments which are violating the well accepted truths and norms, violating the laws of our country, are based on any individual's opinion, okay, and also for the part of screening where we consider that are not properly related. And if we find out the predictability, their predictability is less, their probability is less, and they are also not desired in terms of what we just now did, okay, not doing a greater good to the people, and these all are falling into the category of weak arguments. So how was the session? This is my last question. You can let me know in the comment section. This was in detail, guys, because listen, no one will actually put forward so much of efforts doing this. I know they will just directly jump to the questions, but jumping to the questions might not increase your accuracy in the exam. And what you need to build up in exams like CAT, XAT and other OMETs as well is your accuracy. If your accuracy is good, only then you will be able to bring forward yourself in such a competitive race where everyone is doing good. So therefore, make sure that you work on your accuracy, and for that your basics should be as clear as anything. So therefore, I was just thinking that since we have a lot of time, we can work on this basics from the early. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you're new to this channel, then subscribe to this channel. Please share it with more and more people so that this free course reaches many more others. Okay. And don't forget to check out the PDF, which is there in the description box and the first comment of this video as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll meet you in my next video. Till then, please take care.